everyone, welcome back to Cars and Zebras. Today I have another featured drag race, so I sure hope that you enjoy it. If you do find it entertaining, make sure that you hit the like button and subscribe to the channel because I do post these videos regularly, and also make sure to share it with your friends so they can enjoy it as well. I do appreciate you watching, and with that said, let's check out our featured drag race. This is a 1965 Chevrolet Corvette, and I have been absolutely salivating at the idea of making this video because this car is hot. Let's start with the obvious. This car is gorgeous, and I believe they call this color Glen Green. In an overcast day, it actually looks black, but when it hits that sunlight, like you're gonna see on the drag strip, man, does that green really pop. Outside of that color, 1965 was a great year for the Corvette, and it actually just happens to be the first year for four-wheel disc brakes. You could still get the drum brakes, and Chevy would even give you back $64 if you opted for those, but only 316 Corvettes were equipped with drum brakes in 1965. Now, it seems like there was something else important from 1965 that I wanted to tell you guys about. I can't remember what it was. Oh yeah, an engine option available that year was the L78. That's right, you could get an L78 396 in a 1965 Corvette. But you know what? That was the only year they allowed that combination. For 1966, the L78 was gone. So that makes the L78 equipped Corvettes extremely special. And guess what? I know how much you guys love BBCs, or big block Chevys. And this car is stuffed with 396 cubic inches of turbojet power. We're talking solid lifter cam, Holley carburetor, aluminum intake, forged pistons, 4-bolt mains, a compression ratio of 11:1, and oh yeah, because this engine is so monstrous, the car is fitted with a power blister hood. Altogether, we're talking 425 horsepower at 6,400 RPM, and 415 pound-feet of torque at 4,000 RPM. Like I said, this car is hot. There were a few different transmissions available in the Corvette that year. You could get a Powerglide automatic, or a 3-speed manual, or even a couple different 4-speed manuals. However, in those cars equipped with the absolutely succulent L78, Chevrolet mandated a 4-speed, and this car just happens to be equipped with a close ratio 4 on the floor. But really, would you have it any other way? Nah. Rear gear ratios in the Corvette went anywhere from a 336 to a 456. But this car is equipped with its factory 410 gears. With driver, this car came in at only 3,350 pounds the day of the race, which is extremely impressive considering it's got a big block stuffed up front. Again, you guys, this car is hot.
Just do it.
Original pricing was a little bit expensive, but you did get quite a bit for the money. The convertible started out at $4,106, and the total price for the L78 was $556. The actual L78 engine was only $292, but you had to get the 4-speed, that was another $188, and you also had to get the K66 transistor ignition system, that was another $75. So in total, the cheapest convertible L78 equipped Corvette that you could get was $4,662, which adjusting for inflation would be just over $38,000 today. And that's still a pretty good deal, but compared to a lot of the other muscle cars of the era, that was pretty expensive. They made just over 23,000 Corvettes in 1965, but only 15,000 of those were convertibles, and only 1,500 of those were equipped with the L78. Original testing by Road and Track magazine in August of 1965 showed a 0 to 60 of 5.7 seconds and the quarter mile in 14.1 seconds at 103 miles per hour. But that was in a car equipped with 370 gears. This one has 410, so I'm suspecting that this car is going to run just a little bit quicker than that. Now really think about this car. I'm talking big block, tons of power, it's lightweight, it's got really skinny bias ply tires. So what do you think is going to be the biggest problem with that combination? If you're saying traction, then yes, I mean, that's a big problem. I'd probably say that's the number 2 problem. The number 1 problem is that you're always going to be dealing with people wanting to crawl all over this car like it's a 1980s hair metal music video because it's so damn sexy. But seriously, you guys, this car is going to really struggle with traction, and yeah, it'd run a lot quicker with slicks, but they don't allow that in pure stock racing. There was one really interesting option for the 1965 Corvette, and this specific option was $202, and only 41 Corvettes came with it, that being a 36-gallon fuel tank. Yes, you could option a 36-gallon fuel tank in your 1965 Corvette. But even with that tank, you're not going to make it that far because these cars only get about 9 miles per gallon. At least, that's according to the Road and Track testing in August of 1965. But enough talk about this numbers matching L78 Corvette. Let's check out its opponent. This is a 1970 Plymouth Duster 340. And these cars are kind of like Riley Reid, you know, they seem fairly innocent at first, but when you get to know them, I mean, come on, you guys know what I'm talking about. But in the off chance you don't know who Riley Reid is, well then how about you take a second right now and you Google her. We'll all wait for you. You guys see what I'm talking about? Don't let those little 340s fool you, because they are downright nasty. And they were always able to punch way above their weight class. We're talking a very underrated 275 horsepower at 5,000 RPM and 340 pound-feet of torque at 3,200 RPM with a compression ratio of 10.5 to 1. Let's all keep in mind in pure stock racing, you can do a 0-70 overbore, you can increase your compression ratio 1.5, you can run an electronic ignition, in addition to a 2.5-inch mandrel bent exhaust, amongst a few other little things. And I don't think there's any other engine out there that wakes up more from those modifications than a 340. But really think about it, you guys. From the factory, these came with a forged crank and rods, a Carter 650 CFM carb sitting on a dual plane intake, they had big valves, and they could easily rev to 6,500 RPM without blowing to bits. So if you make all the changes allowed by the pure stocks, these cars transform into absolute terrors on the strip and on the street. So you better stay out of their way or it's gonna be lights out.
Some areas will last, the showers will last into the morning hours.
A 3-speed manual transmission was the standard in the Duster 340, but you could opt for a TorqueFlite automatic or a 4-speed. And oh yeah, this car's got the 4-speed. An 8 3/4 rear was standard on the Duster 340 and it came with 323 gears, but you could opt for 355 gears or even 391 gears. But do you guys want to know a little secret? Why don't you get in a little closer? This car has 430 gears. And you might be thinking to yourself, well, Cars and Zebras, that is way too much gearing. But you know what? These little 340s, they love to rev, and they can definitely handle it, so I think it's gonna work out really well. I think this car is going to be an absolute monster if it can get some traction. Weight has always been a typical advantage for the Duster, and this specific car with driver is coming in at only 3,404 pounds, which is absolutely phenomenal until you compare it to its opponent, the Corvette, which is coming in at only 3,350 pounds. So 50-pound advantage to the Corvette. One advantage that definitely goes to the Duster 340 over the Corvette is price. These cars started out at only $2,547. So adjusting for inflation, that's only about $17,000 today. But remember, this car is optioned with a 4-speed manual, that's another $187. It has a sure grip rear, that's another $42. So readjusting for inflation, this car would be only around $18,000 today. Ronnie Socks actually tested one of these Duster 340s in 1970. His car featured a set of 391 gears, and he was able to run the quarter mile in 14 seconds at 100 miles per hour. But remember, with the modifications allowed by Pure Stock Racing, not to mention the gear swap, and a good set of tires, this car is going to run just a little bit quicker than that. Production for the 1970 Duster was very impressive. They made just over 217,000 of these cars. But if we break that down, only 24,000 were 340 coupes. And if we go further yet, those equipped with a 4-speed accounted for only 7,300 cars. So these things are starting to get a little bit rare. And here's something that I always like to make fun of when I see these ads for these old muscle cars. I swear that every photo shows the car off-roading, and I'm not sure if that was just a tactic to show how robust the car is, but then I found this commercial for the 1970 Duster, and you'll see. Let's hit the clip.
Mr. Titchener, may I give it my own little test now?
Give it the works, Ethel. The Duster's big enough to take it.
I like the torsion bar suspension with lateral control arms. And the body reinforced by steel girders welded into a single unit. No wonder it's so popular. And the size, small enough for tight little spaces.
Mr. Titchener, what kind of a young man would be attracted to this Plymouth Duster?
The Duster, Mama? Why, an engineer would love it.
An engineer I got. What I need now is a son-in-law.
Yes. You saw that correctly. In this commercial, she drove a Duster through a cornfield. But that isn't the only strange commercial for the Duster. I also found this one. Here's a quick clip.
In some parts of the world, Plymouth Duster could be considered one of those imported economy cars.
Was ist das? Amerikanische Car. Das ist der...
So for the rest of the commercial, it's just a bunch of actors doing a really bad job of portraying German inspectors. I'm not quite sure what the message was supposed to be, but for completeness, let's check out a commercial for the 65 Corvette.
This is the 65 Corvette Stingray. Looks like it means business. And it does. These new functional side vents help cool the engine. And new this year, disc brakes all around. Try the 65 Corvette. Put yourself in the cockpit and find out why they call it Stingray. You'll see what driving a real sports car is all about.
Now that commercial makes sense. So I'm just guessing by 1970, the Plymouth Advertising Group was just smoking a little bit too much of the doobies. But enough talk about these two cars. Let's see what they can do on the drag strip.
Yo, now here's another car from Detroit, T. Tyson. Is that right? This is a 396 Corvette. Next, the 396 Corvette, 1965. When it gets us 340. Up next, we have Troy Titan. 25 miles per hour. MOPAR is run by Tom Cannon.
Again, thanks for watching, I really appreciate it. Please make sure that you hit the subscribe button so you don't miss any future drag race videos. And of course, I'll see you at the next one.